The following is a text exchange which occurred between brothers on February 25th, 2021. 4:25 a.m. The first Bill and Ted movie needs to be a Broadway show, not for theater snobs, but for the 45-year-old football coaches from Montana that I take to New York. I legitimately think it would be so much fun.
Then you should write it and pitch it to the dudes.
I'm not qualified.
Well, me neither. I did start trying to write a stage version of The Three Amigos right after I graduated from college. I didn't make it that far, but I had envisioned a role for Patrick Swayze to sing a song at the end called So Like the Wind.
That's brilliant.
And then he went and died, so yeah. Missed my window. I have to assume someone is going to try to do a stage version of Bill and Ted now that they are back in the popular lexicon. And I assume Three Amigos is probably too culturally insensitive to get away with today anyway.
Bill and Ted is too obvious not to happen. The set pieces would be great, the cast would have lots of fun, famous people, and there are easy ways to add music with the Wild, Stallions, and Beethoven, and lots of era-specific stuff.
Indeed, and who wouldn't want to play Death?
He's not in that one.
Well, I think you probably combine them. You kind of do all three as one show.
Yeah, they did that with Spam-A-Lot, but, well, not really. Basically, they just did Holy Grail, with Always Look on the Bright Side of Life thrown in. But no, Bill and Ted should only be the first movie.
Okay.
Straight from the heartland, this is Things I Text My Brother. Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of Things I Text My Brother, a series of conversations which have taken place between the brothers Drouillard and subjects spanning the neighborhood and the globe, which will hopefully leave you smarter, kinder, and better looking. Today we're going to jump off from that dramatic reading that you just heard and discuss the topics therein. Maybe we'll talk about Bill and Ted, maybe we'll talk about the Three Amigos, maybe we won't. We haven't plotted an exact course because we want you to join us on that journey. That's how it works on Things I Text My Brother. So, I'm Jeff. This is Brad. Let's talk about our texts. Brother Brad, where do you want to go first with this great text exchange we had back in February of this year?
So I think it's important to point out that Three Amigos already has better songs to begin with than Bill and Ted. If you look at it, My Little Buttercup has the sweetest smile. It's got
Dear
blue
little
shadows.
Buttercup, won't you stay a while? Yes,
Right?
great song.
Blue shadows on the trail.
Good night, Ned.
That one. And then, of course, my own invention, take Patrick Swayze and put in So Like the Wind.
Now,
As they're doing Amigos, 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 and they're copying they're sewing up all those Amigo outfits at the end. Spoiler alert.
exactly.
I should have said that at the start.
Well,
But,
yeah, these are all spoilers for everyone who's obviously seen these classic movies. So hopefully the listeners have seen Three Amigos, because this is one of the most brilliant things you've ever done, and I can put that on a very short list. But this is one of the most brilliant things you've ever thought of. It involves a scene at the end where the town has to use the one talent they have, we can sew, to save their skin from the handsome El Guapo. And yeah, She's Like the Wind gets transformed to So Like the Wind. Patrick Swayze. It's just too beautiful. It's poetry.
But the guy died, so now I missed my window.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair to Patrick Swayze, I did start this in 1998, so he did live a little while after that. But, besides being a major loss for the art world, it was a major personal blow to my ideas for writing a musical.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was looking up Three Amigos, and I always find this fascinating, the people that could have been in the show. So they went through so it ended up being Steve Martin and Chevy Chase and Martin Short.
Lucky Day, Dusty Bottoms, and Ned Niederlander.
Little Ned Niederlander. That's right. But so Steve Martin was always going to be in it. But at one point they had Dan Aykroyd. They were going to put Jim Belushi. They were going to put John Candy.
Jim Belushi or John Belushi? Aren't they two different Belushis?
John Belushi, the one that's dead.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry. Yes, that Belushi. Belushi and Candy they went against because they thought maybe it would be bad with horses. Then Bill Murray was on it. They had
Did John Candy ride horses in movies?
He did. He did. I think in Wagons East, right?
Oh,
Didn't he ride horses in that one? And then he went and died. So there you go. Right. This is a theme here. Mm-hmm. Robin Williams, Rick Moranis. You know, it's always fascinating to me how they end up with the folks that they end up with.
So wait, I'm trying to think of this. So Steve Martin would have probably been in any version. So I'm trying to figure out, as you list off the names, I mean, it seems obvious to me that Rick Moranis would have been playing the Ned Niederlander role.
Yes, clear.
Who is John Candy playing? The Chevy Chase role or the Ned Niederlander?
It must have been, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like Belushi would have been filling in for Chase just in terms of like that level of star quality. It seems like those two would have been, even though they're very different actors, interchangeable characters. But yeah, I don't see John Candy would have definitely changed the face of that film. And Robin Williams as well. I think that, all respect to him, I think that would have been a disaster. He would have sucked.
Surely Robin Williams had to be the Ned Niederlander role too.
Yes. Yeah, I think
so. But they ended up with Short because they were going to do Candy and he couldn't do it. So he suggested Martin Short, who hadn't done any films yet.
So that implies that John Candy would have been playing Ned Niederlander.
It does appear so.
Wow. For those of you who haven't seen the movie, that's wild.
Go see it. Couldn't have been little Ned Knickers or whatever he called him.
Little Neddy Knickers, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing that Three Amigos has on Bill and Ted, though, is Randy Newman did the score. So you already got a Broadway style score.
That seems like something that Father Arthur would probably approve of, even though, does he love Randy Newman? It seems like he would be.
Oh, I'm certain he does. If for no other reason, for the theme song from Major League, right? So
yeah. Oh, there's a red moon arising on the
Cuyahoga River. Yeah. So, which brings me to, who would you have put in Bill and Ted stage show if you could pick famous people to put in the musical?
Obviously, Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel.
As Bill and or Ted.
Yeah, it happened with Ghostbusters in the movies, and frankly, I can't think of the names of any male Broadway singers, so I'm going to say Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel, and there you go.
Hey, but you do know that Bill and Ted basically presaged the internet. So that whole thing where they're traveling through a phone booth by dialing up numbers, and they're going anywhere in time, anywhere in the world, they can travel there via phone line. That's like the internet before the internet existed. It existed, but not in a broad way for most of us.
So let me tell you a story. Speaking of theater, in New York City, during World War II, the elevator which brought people up to the stage at Radio City Music Hall was guarded by the government because it was a new technology that could have been used, I think, in aircraft carriers or something like that, like this large industrial size elevator. So the question is, was the government angry and trying to keep the internet a secret? Did the government come close to, and the military come close to suing the producers of Bill and Ted for revealing the internet to the world in this theory you have?
I'm going to say yes, certainly.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Who's going to prove otherwise?
So the question I have for you, you started out by saying Three Amigos has an advantage over Bill and Ted because of the songs. I haven't seen Bill and Ted for a little while. Are there original songs in there other than just Bill and Ted kind of thrashing poorly on the guitar that they don't know how to play and yelling like wild stallions? Are there songs in there?
I think they maybe did one with the princesses. That's at the end.
Oh.
But yeah, and I didn't even mention the singing bush. We've got the singing bush, of course, in Three Amigos.
Good night, ladies. Good night.
Which was Randy Newman singing that.
Was it really?
Yes, it was.
Wow, that's pretty fantastic. That brings up something in my mind. We're talking about songs, and of course, we're talking about both of these movies potentially becoming plays, which, for anybody who hasn't pieced it together, doesn't know us, we are children who were growing up very much during the 80s and into the 90s. So that puts both of these movies in our wheelhouse. So we weren't the only people to think that these should become a musical. And as you do a search, you very quickly come across a website that is called Bill and Ted's Excellent Musical Adventure. And it is specifically, in fact, the headline at the top says, "Imagine it, Bill and Ted the Musical. Think it couldn't happen? Well, it already did." So, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a Broadway production, but Bill and Ted has been brought to musical life. And it was brought to life. I'm not sure if it was I guess it was a full-on musical. Because I see some highlights on this webpage, which you can Google anything about Bill and Ted the Musical. It'll be first thing that comes up. Highlights from the musical book include Don't Surrender, a hauntingly beautiful song about friendship, another song called A Little Bit of You, which is a love song in which Bill and Ted profess their love to the princess babes, and other songs such as Relax. Anyway, so Bill and Ted the Musical apparently already did exist, performed at the Edinburgh Festival at the Pleasance in Scotland in May of 2000 as a part of a program called Musical Futures at the Greenwich Theatre in London. And Bill and Ted the Musical did not end up making it big. At this time, according to this website, there are no solid plans to stage the musical again. But how could there not be? Because
especially with the new movie just coming out.
The new movie coming out. And everybody wanting to transfer the Hollywood musicals to Broadway because you get, the folks coming into New York City or to the West End, whichever the case may be, and just wanting to see, the theater purists don't want to go and see that stuff. But the people who aren't theater purists just want to go to New York, see something relatable. It's how they all end up going to see Phantom of the Operas because they've already heard of it. But when these other shows exist, they hear of it too. And this is a show that could just have so many cool places that you could go, people that could be in it. I mean, in addition, who was in the original? You had Napoleon, you had Socrates, Billy the Kid, Sigmund,
Beethoven,
Frood Dude, Beethoven, Jeanne d'Arc was in there, Abraham Lincoln, Genghis Khan. Just doing this off the top of my head. That's a pretty good list right there.
And the princesses, so yeah.
The princesses, I read somewhere that there was supposed to be, just a peasant was supposed to be somebody that they picked up in the original version. I don't remember what his name was, but I think they called him a serf. How much fun could you be having with this show? It's at least got as much potential as Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark or something like that. But
Mean Girls.
Although I saw, in my day job, I saw Legally Blonde on Broadway, and it was delightful. So you never know. I know my New York theater purist friends are not going and seeing any of these, which I guess brings up something else that I had in my mind would be worth talking about. Is there's a lot of talk when you get into theater about Broadway shows or theater that has then gone off and become movies. But it's also gone the other way. So in this day job in which I take people to cities and see and do things, I've seen things like Shrek, which was way better than I ever imagined it would be. SpongeBob the musical. I've seen Rocky the musical. I've seen Newsies, which was a better stage show than it was a movie. School of Rock, I've seen their Sister Act, Spamalot, which was award-winning and absolutely fantastic.
I saw that one. That's the only one I've seen. I like
absolutely.
that.
But then there's other ones that I haven't seen, and I'd give a look to Bend It Like Beckham the musical. Would it be disastrous? Maybe, but if they brought it to Broadway, not just the West End, I would see it. I would see Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas the musical. Absolutely.
Well, that's puppets too, so that's you don't pay different actors differently, right? Because you can use puppet. No, but see, I'm going to lean towards movies that were from the late '80s into the early '90s because that's when I was acting in plays in school, right? And that's I think why I did that with Three Amigos because it coincided with the time. So another one that I thought about was So I Married an Axe Murderer, which would be fantastic. But you have the Phil Hartman connection, also dead, unfortunately. The late, great Phil Hartman. He was in Three Amigos, and he's in So I Married an Axe Murderer. That's fantastic to me. but and then he sang the monorail song in The Simpsons, which was written by Conan O'Brien, and the best years of The Simpsons were written by Conan O'Brien. The two best songs are Monorail and See My Vest, where Monty Burns sings a song about his clothes made out of animals. See my vest. See my vest made from real gorilla chest.
Oh my!
It's fantastic.
So you and our wonderful sister Angela were the thespians of the Drouillard family in the high school years. Both of you were at shows. I was busy playing baseball, which looking back was time wasted. I wish I had been in some shows instead. But tell everybody, well, I know Angie's greatest role in my mind was just the bit part in Sound of Music when she was the nun that just wouldn't stop bowing after the performance toward the end. And she was hilarious. And at the same time that she was doing that, I actually had a perm in my hair. So I
remember the perm very vividly.
So it's going to come out eventually. So we need to mention the perm. I was in third grade.
Do we? We need it?
This is a thing? This is very relevant to this discussion of Bill and Ted and the Three Amigos as well. So we're just going to talk about it. I was in the third grade. Hopefully, our sound editor, Jeff, puts some music in behind this beautiful story. But there was a very handsome, very well-cultured person named Brian Barnhouse who went to my school.
I shared a bus seat with him.
Fantastic basketball player.
In elementary school, I shared a bus seat with him.
Absolutely. There you go. So Brian Barnhouse, his hair, back in the third grade, he was in my grade, like, it was a little long in the back. I don't think it was quite a mullet, but just the very bottom edge at the back of his hair just had the slightest little curl up. And third grade Jeff thought, man, that's really cool. I would like that little curl. I wasn't saying I wanted my whole hair curly. I wasn't asking for a Bob Ross perm. I just wanted the very tail of my hair to curl up. Now, whether even that is a good idea is of course highly disputable. But what I ended up with is our mother and our aunt interpreting my failed communication attempt in a way that I probably led them to thinking, yeah, we should give Jeff a full-on perm just on the back of his head. So I had like a mullet perm when I attended the multiple showings of the Woodmore High School Sound of Music, starring Angela Drouillard as many of the ensemble cast parts, including the nun who wouldn't stop bowing, and of course Bradley Drouillard as one of the Von Trapp family singers.
I was Kurt Von Trapp.
Kurt. So tell us about your theater career. Enlighten our audience. What else did you have going?
I was in the 6 plays. I was Kurt Von Trapp in Sound of Music. I was in the chorus group in Brigadoon. Then I was the butler in Annie. Punjab wasn't in there, so the butler just did all those things. And when I was doing that role, the Christmas tree in the scene with Franklin Roosevelt, the Christmas tree broke in half while I was singing my solo. But I kept going like a trooper. Like I'm almost a professional in that way.
Yeah, I mean everybody was saying that then, and I think they're still talking about it.
Right, I know. And somebody fell down the stairs at the same time. It was great. My biggest role was Freddie Eynsford Hill in My Fair Lady, when I got to sing in front of the curtain during a scene change all by myself. And I didn't fall off the stage, which was excellent because
What did you sing?
I sang On the Street Where You Live.
Oh, I actually know of this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I sang that song. And as you know, I am extremely shy. And that took everything I had to even just stand out there. And it would have been just about right had I fallen off the stage at some point. But I didn't. And then I did Carousel, and I played some skeevy guy at the fair. I moved with the carnival and worked on the carousel. And then in Oklahoma, I got typecast as a cowboy named Slim. So that was great. I did fall off the stage in Oklahoma, but I did that on purpose. Excellent. Because I was a senior and I thought that was the way to go. Yeah. I also had to manage the sets for my last 3 years because Angie did the sets before me. And when she graduated, no one picked up the sets. And I was at play practice one day and the director said, Mrs. Motley, she said, Brad, where's this thing? I said, why would I know? Aren't you doing the sets? I'm like, no, you are now. So I had to do the sets, which meant Cousin Ben and Grandpa Doc actually did the sets collection. They went out and got everything for us.
Well, that's a worthwhile team. So
there you go. But that's all I got on.
So
that.
Did you know that even though I have not performed in any actual productions, that I have actually sung songs on the stage of Radio City Music Hall once, and I have sung multiple times on the stage of the famous Apollo Theater in New York City, in Harlem, once with an audience of tens of people who are watching me sing the Canadian national anthem.
We also sang the Canadian national anthem when we ran a marathon together for like the first 5 miles, which was great.
It's one of my go-to songs because it's one of the few songs I can get through the entire thing, although they did change some of the words to be more inclusive in recent years, and I'm not sure I've gotten the update.
Probably not. But so the most important question, when you're up on the stage, and this brings up The Princess Bride as being another quality movie to play option, is did you do the marriage speech while you were up on stage?
Marriage?
Yes,
no.
Did you do that? Because you should always.
I did not. I did, however.
Or the San Dimas High School football rules. Did you drop one of those on your way off?
No, I didn't do any of that. But you're mentioning other Princess Bride is another one that should obviously. And somewhere I did read that has been proposed and maybe undertaken, but it hasn't come to pass yet. There was apparently talk in like 2017 or somewhere around that time of Randy Newman was a guest on, I think it was Fallon. And he was talking about the fact that it has been proposed and actually has had some work on getting the Three Amigos to be an official Broadway show. So this could still happen. We could spark it. It would be awesome. Yeah, our tens of listeners for this show can lead that movement. But it sounds like you did some thinking on other things with So I Married an Axe Murderer and Princess Bride that should be Broadway shows from our childhood. For me, I did as well. And the one that I came up with, although it kind of just happened in movie form, is Coming to America. Absolutely needs to be a musical, especially in New York City, where I've told anybody who will listen how I believe that Coming to America is the quintessential best New York film that I could ever imagine. And you were mentioning when I was on the stage at the Apollo, did I do the marriage speech from Princess Bride? I did not. But one of my greatest moments in life is tied into Coming to America, and it involves marriage. It's I proposed to Shannon at the camp where we volunteered at. And the next day in just the big mess hall, whatever you call it, we're eating lunch. And this guy got up and in honor of me proposing to Shannon at camp the day before, he starts singing, "She's your queen to be." And I couldn't believe it. It was... Because this guy didn't know anything about Coming to America being the central movie. It probably wasn't, but I think of it as like one of the central core elements of my childhood in terms of media that I could consume. And it was just the perfect moment of putting that all together in this place that was so special. And so when Coming to America comes to the stage and they start singing "She's Your Queen to Be," I will stand up in the audience and give a standing ovation right in that moment. Well,
everybody will, because that is powerful.
Absolutely.
That song.
But it also, this whole thinking about Bill and Ted, which, by the way, I saw Bill and Ted twice in the theater, and the first time was at the drive-in theater, which is pretty cool, with Andy Huizinga. But this did kind of bring back to me, and more so even with... I think Three Amigos, and I think you probably agree. It got me thinking about like family specific nostalgia and what a special thing that is. Like, I would love to hear in our Instagram account for this show. And hopefully, this being the second show, people aren't going to come to this show right as we're recording it. But hopefully years down the road, if they're all going back and listening in the millions and thousands and billions, as they probably will, they'll hear this episode. And at that time, I want them to go to our Instagram under this episode and tell us what their family specific nostalgia is. Because we all have it. In our family, if somebody opens a gift, I guarantee what the first thing is somebody's going to say.
It's a sweater!
It's a sweater! Because
today he turns 33 years old.
Jefe.
We all chipped in and got you this gift. It's a sweater!
Jefe gave El Guapo a sweater in Three Amigos. And I don't think either you or Cousin Ben opened a gift, certainly not a gift that was in anything that could have been a fabric, without that being exclaimed amongst everybody in the family. And this is for this movie that was generally panned, that, kind of went unnoticed and is considered a low point for several of these actors who were in it in their careers. But for us, it just created this special moment that lives on and on and on. I was trying to think of other things in our childhood that became that, but It's a Sweater is gotta be like top 5 in the list of family things for us.
So on Ben's 40th birthday, I sent him a sweater in the mail. An ugly sweater I bought at Goodwill.
That's fantastic.
Fit right in. But I love the fact that you have all of these outlaws buying their outlaw boss. They're chipping in together and they bought him a sweater.
Well, the one thing I came across that is really nothing to do with this other than it's the characters we were talking about. Apparently, both Jefe and El Guapo were like real deal actors. And actually, Jefe, which is El Guapo's second in command, turned down a role in Platoon to be in the Three Amigos. And apparently Oliver Stone never forgave him for that, which I think makes his appearance in that movie, if he was like a serious thespian himself, even more enjoyable that he did Three Amigos instead of Platoon.
Could it be that you are mad at someone else and taking it out on me? Jefe, it's fantastic. His role was fantastic. He pulled it all together.
Well, and was he the plethora or was that El Guapo?
El Guapo asked him if he had a plethora. And
he's
a plethora of pinatas. And he says, yes, you have a plethora. He said, I would not like to think that someone would tell someone else that they have a plethora if that person doesn't know what a plethora is.
Which is the one thing, like in our family, it's a sweater was the line, but that is the line that has traction. Like you'll still hear people say plethora and you can tell that they're saying it with some vague knowledge that line was uttered in a movie. So that seems to be like the one point where that hung on, or where this movie hung on in the public consciousness. So once we get it back on Broadway and all these other lines can come forward, then people can walk around and start quoting it like Hamilton. Can you imagine if Three Amigos comes to Broadway and it becomes the next Hamilton?
It would be fitting and appropriate. Of course, it probably still isn't appropriate for this day and age. But so thinking of other things, so connecting back to our previous show where we talked about Lucha Libre and Lucha Libre Vavum, which was the burlesque with Lucha Libre.
Yep.
I feel like since we know The Rock can sing, there has to be some other wrestlers who can sing. There has to be some sort of mishmash between pro wrestlers and Warriors and West Side Story, like mashed together.
Warriors come out to play.
Right? And you mix that in with West Side Story and you have wrestlers doing all of it.
Brad, how do you even get all those ideas in your head and put those headphones over all that?
Well, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Headphones snapping.
The other musical I started to write, I made it through one song when I was trying to write a musical with Three Amigos. I don't know why I thought I could do that. It seemed like a thing to do. I had lots of free time. I tried to write a musical around a day in the life of a Krispy Kreme donut. And as far as I got was a parody of Wholehearted.
Wholehearted. Well, what I have to say about writing a play about a Krispy Kreme donut, that's a really, really freaking terrible idea. So I'm glad that it didn't make it anyway.
But I felt good about Wholehearted without the W. It was perfect.
Well, I mean, you can't feel bad about Wholehearted, and yes, the gimmick works. But anything involving Wholehearted is going to work. Well, except for that musical, which wouldn't work. That would be a disaster.
So I do have the stats though that back up why if we get a musical, it's going to be successful. An average musical runs 331 shows, although 30% of them were less than a month. But that's 70%. Were more than a month. So that's good, right? And in the 1940s, there were 15 new musicals per year on Broadway.
Yeah.
In the 2000s, there were 9.3, but the number's going up. We're catching it at the right time. Now's the time for someone to do that Three Amigos and that Bill and Ted and that Coming to America musical because everybody wants the musicals. Now's the time.
Coming to America, it's gotta happen. If I could go in and I could hear the Queen to Be song, but if I could also hear somebody stand on a stage and sing Soul Glow, I don't know if I would ever leave that theater. I would probably just pass out or flat out just die from having basically experienced everything that I needed to experience in life. Soul Glow.
I would volunteer to be Mortimer and/or Randolph.
Randolph, we're back. Yeah,
I would be Mortimer.
Well, I think we've probably gotten to the point where we've spoken about this about as long as anybody would ever be willing to listen. Is there anything else you were dying to mention on this subject?
No, I had to get my stats in there because I did spend some time looking that up.
I appreciate I
got that nailed.
The professionalism and the level of research that you're putting in. There's probably only one person who could contribute more to this podcast than myself and certainly you, and he happens to be our father. His name is Father Art, and we're going to ask him some questions.
So today's topic, Father Art, started out with a question about musicals and delved into any number of insane directions. But what is your favorite current musical?
I would say the Book of Mormon.
And why do you like the Book of Mormon?
Because I'm interested in various religions and their practices and thought processes, And the Mormons offer both some interesting practices and very interesting social implications in terms of race and gender and so forth. I think it's very topical.
What is your wife's favorite?
I would say my wife's favorite musical is probably Oklahoma.
It is well known that your daughter, Angela, was a fantastic actress in high school.
Yeah.
What was your favorite role that she played in all of the plays she was in?
I enjoyed when she played the maid in Annie, and even though it was only a chorus role, I enjoyed seeing her as a nun in The Sound of Music. As a former Catholic, I just enjoyed seeing her as a nun.
Well, folks, now that we've heard from Father Art, it means that our time together is coming to an end. We've said just about everything we can say on not only the Bill and Ted musical and the Three Amigos musical, but on Brad in the play Annie performing through falling Christmas trees, Brad having a terrible idea for a play about Krispy Kreme donuts, me having a terrible perm back in 3rd grade while our sister Angie was performing on the stage of Sound of Music. Don't fear, though, we're going to have another episode coming up as soon as we can dig back into the archives, find another gem of a text exchange, and do a little research to enlighten your day, just as we did this time. In the meantime, you can head over to our Instagram page at Things I Text My Brother Podcast to drop us a note about what you liked, what you didn't like, or tell us something that we got wrong, or just add your stories to ours. You can also find us on Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud. Just search for Things I Text My Brother and any of those, and we're working on the Google Podcast and the Apple Podcast and all that. So if you happen to work for Apple, have your support team email us back. We've been waiting to hear back from you, Apple support team, because we want our podcast on there. Visit all the places, hit like or subscribe or whatever you can do, and the fraternity of Drouillards will be forever grateful. We will talk to you next time. Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. I was going down the list of movies.
God, you watched that movie so many times. I hated that movie.
I only recall watching it like twice.
Oh my God, you watched it like every day for like a month.